morning and welcome, friends. Every Sunday at 11 a.m., this lodge meets for a presentation done by a student of Theosophy on a particular topic, which is followed by questions and answers. On the first and third Sundays of the month, we're studying The Ocean by Mr. Judge. The Theosophical movement has brought to our notice certain principles, and these are the three primary objectives of the movement. And we are to embody those principles in our daily lives so that the higher mind can grapple with it and absorb it and bring it to the forefront as a sole vision for each human being to follow. This is a special season. The new year is a new cycle because the energy of the earth is young and fresh, and whatever we undertake, it is written that it has tenfold the power than any other time of the year. So if we want to work on behalf of humanity and enable it to move forward to a higher expression of itself, even though it is self-devised, self-induced effort that makes it come about for each human being, still we are here to help one another. The declaration. The policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of Theosophy without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the Theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of Theosophy and the exemplification in practice of those principles through a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds that the unassailable basis for union among Theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis, and it aims to disseminate this idea among Theosophists in the furtherance of unity. It regards as Theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization. It welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true Theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all. The following is the form signed by associates of the United Lodge of Theosophists. Being in sympathy with the purposes of this lodge, as set forth in its declaration, I hereby record my desire to be enrolled as an associate, it being understood that such association calls for no obligation on my part other than that which I myself determine. Today's reading is from the Bhagavad Gita. This is the second chapter, and this is the answer that Krishna gives. A man is said to be confirmed in a spiritual knowledge when he forsaketh every desire which entereth into his heart, and of himself is happy and content in the self through the self. His mind is undisturbed in adversity, He is happy and contented in prosperity, and he is a stranger to anxiety, fear, and anger. Such a man is called a muni, when in every condition he receives each event, whether favorable or unfavorable, with an equal mind, which neither likes nor dislikes. His wisdom is established, and having met good or evil, neither rejoiceth at the one, nor is cast down by the other. He is confirmed in a spiritual knowledge, when like the tortoise, he can draw in all his senses and restrain them from their wanted purposes. The hungry man loses sight of every other object, but the gratification of his appetite. And when he is become acquainted with the Supreme, he loseth all taste for objects of whatever kind. The 12 to his senses and organs hurry away by force the heart even of the wise man who striveth after perfection. Let a man, restraining all these, remain in devotion at rest in me, his true self. For he who hath his senses and organs in control possesses the spiritual knowledge. He who attendeth to the inclinations of the senses, in them hath a concern. From this concern is created passion. From passion, anger. From anger is produced delusion. From delusion, a loss of the memory. From the loss of memory, loss of discrimination. And from loss of discrimination, loss of all. But he who, free from attachment or repulsion for objects, experiences them through the senses and organs, with his heart obedient to his will, attains to tranquility of thought. And this tranquil state attained, therefrom shall soon result a separation from all troubles, and his mind being thus at ease, fixed upon one object, it embraceth wisdom from all sides. The man whose heart and mind are not at rest is without wisdom, or the power or contemplation. Who doth not practice reflection hath no calm, and how can a man without calm obtain happiness? The uncontrolled heart, following the dictates of the moving passions, snatches away his spiritual knowledge, as a storm the bark upon the raging ocean. Therefore, O great armed one, he is possessed of spiritual knowledge, whose senses are withheld from objects of sense. What is night to those who are unenlightened is as day to his gaze. What seems as day is known to him as night, the night of ignorance. Such is the self-governed sage. The man whose desires enter his heart, as waters run into the unswelling passive ocean, which, though ever full, yet does not quit its bed, obtaineth happiness, not he who lusteth in his lusts. The man who, having abandoned all desires, acts without covetousness, selfishness, or pride, deeming himself neither actor nor possessor, attains to rest. This, O son of Pritha, is dependence upon the Supreme Spirit, and he who possesseth it goes no more astray. Having obtained it, it therein established at the hour of death, he passes on to nirvana in the Supreme. And now today's talk, the New Year.
Thank you. Friends, humanity's hope at the beginning of every year is that the new year will bring happiness and that all our desires will be fulfilled. Having desires and trying to fulfill them is what keeps most of us going. It keeps us motivated. We all wish for the eradication of the suffering of the entire humanity, for peace in the world, for all people to realize the truth and shun ignorance, for all humanity to see the light of truth. But do such wishes get priority in our thoughts, or do they take a back seat to selfish wishes and desires? Theosophy teaches the significant influences that recast conditions in the world begin with human attitudes, especially those persistently maintained. So every year becomes a cyclic opportunity to make a new beginning. The first speaker mentioned that this time of the year, every good act has a tenfold opportunity for good. The Roman god Janus, he's pictured over here, he's the god of beginnings and endings. He's pictured as having two opposing faces. One is an old face and the other is a younger face. Janus, as the presiding deity over the month of January, watches the gate which opens every year. He is a double-faced god. The old face represents the past and the young represents the future. With the key of garnered knowledge, he opens the new year. And with his staff, he moves higher in attitudes. Walking stick there. Similarly, we see that each human being is like Janus, who is striving and progressing. The two faces represent our two natures, higher and lower, as also the past and the future. That is, it portrays the present as the invisible plane separating the two faces, the past and the future. In this sense, the past and the future are the temporal aspects of the spiritual reality, also known as the eternal now. The Secret Doctrine, Volume 1, page 37, tells us that, quote, time is only an illusion produced by the cessation of our states of consciousness. The enduring reality is the consciousness itself. We tend to mistake illusion for reality and vice versa. We just heard in the reading from the Gita that what is night to those who are unenlightened is as day to his gaze. What seems as day is known to him as night, the night of ignorance. Such is a self-governed sage. We heard in our Christmas talk that this time of the year was celebrated by the ancients as the time of the birth of the sun. On the return of the sun in its northern course, beginning with the 21st of December, the day of the winter solstice. During this period between Christmas and the Easter, there is a rising wave of spiritual and psychic renewal, so that all that we desire has a greater impulsion than at some other time of year. This is a time when the astral life of the earth is young and strong. It is the 4th of January, that was yesterday, that the Theosophists select as their new year, since that day is sacred to Mercury Buddha, or Thoth Hermes, as also to Osiris. It was the day in which the Kumaras, or Manasaputras, lighted up Manas, making man a thinking being. January 3 is sacred to Minerva Athene, the goddess of wisdom, and also to Isis, she who generates life. We can reflect on this cycle and take advantage of the power of renewal it brings. And we can make higher resolutions, which are made with free will, which are altruistic, and for the betterment of all. Aphorism 8 on karma, given by Mr. Judge, states that the action of karma may be known by calculation from cause to effect, And this calculation is possible because the effect was wrapped up in and is not succeeded to the cause. Just as the karmic effect is inherent in the cause itself, so also is the cyclic manifestation of the universe. We have the seeds of the future events inherent in the moment of the birth of the universe. The next moment is the future and is inherent in the present moment. It helps to remember that cycles move out from the psychic energies generated by the human thought. Since mind is the true plane of action, we are never really victims of pure chance. Human thought initiates cycles. There are individual cycles and cycles which encompass the entire human family. But we only see the effects that give evidence of unexhausted causes. Man, the thinking being, initiates the cycles and also evolves in and through them. Therefore, we can see that the cycles may be characterized by the nature of the souls destined to evolve through them. Every new year, man, the Janus-like being, is reminded that the fight is still going on between the higher and the lower natures. The old face which looks from the region of the past memories and the new which peeps from the region of hope still has hold over us. We begin the new year with a hope, looking forward to pleasure and happiness. These hopes are likely to be frustrated. Hopes, fears, memories, and anticipations keep the human consciousness in a non-integrated state. The most prominent aspect of life which you can believe with certainty is uncertainty. We cannot predict the future. Most of us seem to reject uncertainty. We make plans for the week and plans for the day. Most of us even buy New Year planners and diaries to fill up with plans for the upcoming year. Our whole life is planned out. Since life is uncertain and everything is in a state of constant flux, it is good to remember, as Mr. Judge says on page 124 of Letters That Have Helped Me, an occultist is never fixed on any particular mortal plan, and that one must learn to take up an easy and fluidic position. But since we have plans and things to do, we think nature has to comply with our plans. We try to control uncertainty. When all our plans do not materialize, when things do not go the way they should, then we get angry, frustrated, disappointed, and may even try to divert the teachings rather than doing the right thing and changing our ways. A little observation shows that many of our expectations are completely unrealistic and based on selfish desires. We fail to realize that we continue to suffer because we keep asking for things from our partners, our colleagues, including our own selves. We have great expectations from ourselves and the future. Thus, the issue is not with the world, but with our expectations from people and from life. The sooner we accept that life is uncertain, the better it will be for us. Instead of ignoring the uncertainty of life or being afraid of it, we can learn to embrace it. And then we will not have any expectations from life, from our family, friends, colleagues, or partners. Then we are less likely to get shocked or surprised, but instead are prepared for whatever life brings to us. Instead of getting angry or upset about situations and about the situation and denying it, we can make the best use of situations to understand and learn the meaning of life, the lesson that life is trying to teach us. But embracing uncertainty does not mean that we need to be irresponsible, indifferent, apathetic, or demotivated in life. On the contrary, we need to perform our duties moment to moment, cheerfully and carefully. We need to be responsible for our thoughts, speech, and actions. We're always hoping, expecting, desiring, and running after things in life. We're always restless and anxious. We need to act from a higher perspective. The attitude that we need to cultivate is one of equanimity, as described in the Gita. Sri Krishna says, "He, O son of Pandu, who doth not hate these qualities, illumination, action, and delusion, when they appear, nor longeth for them when they disappear, who, like one who is of no party, sitteth as one unconcerned about the three qualities and undisturbed by them, who being persuaded that the qualities exist, is moved not by them, who is of equal mind in pain and pleasure, self-centered, to whom a lump of earth, a stone, or gold, or as one, who is of equal mind with those who love or dislike, constant the same, whether blamed or praised, equally minded in honor and disgrace, and the same toward friendly or unfriendly side, engaging only in necessary actions, such as one who has surmounted the qualities." Sri Krishna says, "My devotee, who is unexpecting, pure, just, impartial, devoid of fear, and who hath forsaken interest in the results of actions, is dear unto me." When one is able to renounce the doership as well as the fruits of actions, and is constantly aware of the divine presence within, then to him Krishna promises, quote, "I presently become the savior from the ocean of incarnations and death." It is important to cultivate such an attitude in life rather than having endless desires and expectations and being deluded in this ever-changing, transitory world. No doubt we need to have a direction, aim, and purpose in life and work towards the same, but at the same time, let us not lose sight of the fact that, number 6, the so-called future is the outcome of our present. Hence, we need to focus on the present while doing our duty, being unattached to the results of our actions. The most important thing which we need to realize is that the whole world exists and is sustained by the One, which is unchangeable and eternal. Why are we running after the illusion of the promise of the future when we are that One itself in reality? We are that, and therefore we have all the knowledge and all the powers of creation, preservation, destruction, and regeneration. We are the creatures of our own future destinies by our own choices, thoughts, and actions, each moment of our life. The attitude and approach to life will automatically take care of our future. At the beginning of a new year, we should throw a lion's glance at the year just past. Writes the Master of Wisdom, "It is the custom among some people to glance back at their life's path from the hillocks of time they annually surmount." Hence, every moment of life, every new day and new year is an opportunity to examine our thoughts, feelings, actions, and also reactions and responses to the past, from which emerges the perspective vision of the future. So every moment of our life becomes a cyclic opportunity to make a new beginning and to steer our life in a particular direction in the future in harmony with all. As students of the United Lodge of Theosophists, our retrospect begins with the purpose of ULT. That purpose is the study, application, and promulgation of Theosophy as it was given by those who brought it. The body of knowledge to which we point is that given to the world by H.B. Blavatsky and named by her Theosophy. To conserve that message in its purity has been and will continue to be our earnest endeavor. Without a recognition of the existence of masters of wisdom, there is no assignable reason for the existence of such a body of knowledge. The existence of masters was shown and proven by HBB. The signed manual of Theosophy is HBB. Her attest the only visible means by which the genuine may be distinguished from the counterfeit. We are asked to listen to what she says, but to test it with our own inner realities, not to take anything and believe it just for belief's sake. The recognition of HBB as an agent and messenger of masters carries with it her estimation of William Quan Judge, her colleague from the first to the last. A study of the writings of both will show their full accord and complementary nature. HBB presented the philosophy as a whole. William Q. Judge exemplified its practical use in daily life. So we join with Robert Crosby in continuing the endeavor to rescue from obscurity a right appreciation, understanding, and use of the philosophy as given by these teachers. As for 2020, we may remember our past resolutions and failure to keep them. The reason for such failures is that we do not understand our own natures. Consequently, we are not able to use the force and influence that lie within us so far as we are physically concerned, and we have difficulty in endeavoring to carry out our resolutions of any kind. It is not enough to merely desire, but to act on what one has resolved to do. Also, when the desire is intense, will comes into action. Our first mistake is to make negative resolutions. We resolve that we will not drink or whatever, whereas the proper resolve is to make it that I will do this or that or the other, the opposite of what we are now doing. The will to do attitude makes a direct affirmation of will, while the other form of resolution puts us in a purely negative position, explains Mr. Crosby on pages 310 and 311 of The Friendly Philosopher. True goodness is a positive position. We cannot forget the need to persist and to sustain the resolution that we make. Always behind will stands desire. The function of every one of our bodily organs, like the beating of the heart, evolved by conscious effort. We may not remember that, but that's the way it evolved. But the real and true will is known as the spiritual will, which flies like light and cuts all obstacles like a sharp sword, according to the voice of the silent. All the powers that exist or can exist are latent in the spiritual nature. We draw from it in degree, but in small degree, because most of us have our ideas fixed on physical existence. We were once conscious of our spiritual nature, but as we came down through the planes of matter to this plane, we made a growth in intellectuality, reasoning from premises to conclusions at the expense of spiritual insight. It is useless for theology, science, and psychology to proceed from the personal and physical perceptions in order to get an understanding of what man really is, as their psychological causes are but reflections of the physical ideas. What is most necessary is a proper basis for thinking. We need to eject the false idea of our being weak, sinful creatures and the mental idol of an outside creator. We need to understand the purpose of life, to see that we are the product of many of our past lives, and to recognize an evolution under law, a law both true and merciful, which operates everywhere. It is because that law operates in a round of impression that we have the tendency each year to make New Year's resolutions. We could, by understanding and using of this law of recurrence, bring into effect those resolutions rather than allowing our old desires to reassert themselves. Resolutions will never do us any good if we do not sustain them with an indomitable will. The harder we don't think about the evil things in us, the better. Think about their opposites, and the evil will not have the chance to return. Attachment, desire, and evil all evolve from thought, first of all. Then follows the action. We have to have a firm basis for our thinking if we are ever going to express ourselves as we should as spiritual beings. Why do we have all our pet theories of life and our pet religions and philosophies? Because they conform to our own desires, not because they conform to truth or that they provide an explanation for all the mysteries we see about us. This is why after so many thousands of years of what we call civilization, we have become none the wiser, still moving in the same old treadmill of life, with death and sorrow, and suffering and pain. Yet we are not bound to it, save as we bind ourselves to our own thoughts and actions. What promise then does the new year hold for us? Nothing, except for what we have decreed for ourselves. So long as we think and act in ignorance of the truth of our real self, which is one and not many, and of the law of our being, which is absolute justice and mercy, so long shall we be wandering in the desert of life, mistaking shadows for reality. We will continue to seek happiness in things external, which end in disappointment and sorrow. There is a chance for us if we understand our own natures. We can resolve one great thing. Resolve to know, resolve to think right and do right, resolve to acquire some of the knowledge that always has existed, the knowledge of man as a spiritual being through all his fluctuations in the realm of matter. As we rely more and more upon the self within, we begin to express and use the power which we already have, and that is far more than we imagine. So we must resolve to renew and recreate ourselves in the image of that higher natural and inherent impulse in human nature, that thou art. Let us then, with Alfred Tennyson, resolve to wring out the mean, the selfish, the narrow, the old, undesirable traits in ourselves, and ring in the nobler modes of life, the love of truth and right, and the love of the common good. I'll stop it here. Open it to everyone else to comment, ask questions. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you don't ask a question, I will keep talking. Okay, I got a hand.
So then, from your talk, if we want our life to turn towards the positive, you said that our ideology has to be positive. In other words, what we want to achieve, we have to state it in a positive way rather than in its negative equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that do, that statement of positive ideology in the mind? What does it bring about?
Well, it causes us not to think about negative stuff. If we're thinking about positive stuff all the time, like, you know, I quit drinking as an example. Rather than saying that, you say, I will take into my body only that which is good for my body. That gets us to thinking about the opportunities to eat veggies and that type of thing. That's what I get out of it.
And,
Well, this particular idea comes from Mr. Crosby.
But there is a reason not to drink, because it really does affect the brain.
Absolutely. It's a negative effect on us.
I had
Yeah.
read a research article some years back from NIH where they were saying that it actually kills your brain cells. That is not very promising.
I've read that
Yeah,
too.
a lot of people still drink. I wonder if they know that it really does kill your brain cells, because every day on the news we're listening to red wine is good for your cardiovascular system.
Right.
Why don't they talk about the brain cells dying at the same time?
And I chuckle at that because then people rationalize, well, I got millions and billions of those things. What's a few? You know, they get replaced all the time.
Yeah.
So let me booze it up.
Yeah, it's quite a problem for the young people, because now we have drug problems at the same time. So if they were to follow what you had just said, to change their life around, it has to be put into the mind first, because the mind then will sift it downward as you are going in your daily routine. But I don't think that is actually taught to our young generation today. They are quite lost.
Yeah, Dad always said, handle not, touch not, and taste not. And the literature clearly shows why you don't do that.
So where are the young kids today? They
I
need
think
to be educated
I'm
in
negative
that
myself.
department, in that direction. They need to be educated in that.
I think the 20-somethings tending not to do a lot of boozing up like in our generation. No. It's still a big problem. I'm not suggesting that I want to minimize the problem. I just heard a report saying that the 20-somethings of the day are not drinking as much as the 30-somethings. And our son says, yeah, they've replaced that with drugs. Oh, yeah.
You put a picture of Janus on the board.
Mm-hmm.
He has two faces.
Yep.
So when he looks towards the past, and then the other one is looking towards the new year that is coming, does he survey in sorrow what has happened in 2019 and look forward with brightness to 2020 is my question, because of humanity's condition in life.
If we truly understand the philosophy, there's that ray of hope. There's no question about it. It's a doctrine of hope and responsibility, it's called. And as long, if we take the bull by the horns, as the saying down home goes, and try to change ourselves one thought at a time, we have a very bright future. We have to usher in the golden age ourselves. The next age is the golden age, but it's up to us as to how long we're going to be in this iron age by our own thoughts and actions.
So what you're saying is each human soul has to change themselves.
Absolutely.
And but the old practice of family life is not in existence today very much, because we are a society where we're scattered a little bit, because in the olden days the extended families live together, like grandparents, uncles, and on. That is not the kind of environment we have today. And this student also observes that the young people are quite disrespectful, if that is their true way of dealing with life. When you see kids in the shopping centers, and they're quite disrespectful to their parents. This student absorbs all that with sadness, but of course it's not anyone's place to say anything. How then do we reconcile this mode of living with the essential mode of living that you have described here at the platform for the coming year?
Well, I think you were talking, you're implicit in there in your comments about cycles and so forth. We've gotten away from the home life that we started out this life in, the older folks anyway. The father going out and earning the money, the mother staying at home all the time and raising the children and whatnot. And the kids could go out and run around and not be concerned about getting kicked, pulled off the streets, being kidnapped. So that's the cycle we're in. It's a challenge we're always in some kind of a situation where we have challenges, and we have to rise to the occasion. And we need to continue to stay positive and continue to think about the things we can do.
Well, this is the age of information.
Right.
The communication modality has changed. Everything is now presented to us automatically, whether we want to know it or not. Also now there's that really difficult situation we face, whether what is being distributed is real or it isn't, because there is so much mixed up into everything. How can one rely on all that information that is presented? So it really becomes very challenging for the younger people. At least we have lived and are experienced and have that inner intuitive powers to sort it out. But what about all the young generation? Because everyone has cell phones, computers are generalized, school systems are there, and they have access to everything. Sometimes the young generation is actually more attuned to it than their parents are. And so how are we going to make up for that gap?
Well, I think you ended your comment with what I was just going to say. Seems like we have young people out there that got a lot more sense than the older folks do. Because they've maybe had many prior lives, maybe they're older souls than we think they are. But they're thinking about the people in Africa that need water wells, and we have examples of young people in their teens going out and raising the awareness and getting those wells dug. So there's lots of the example of the person that went to South America and saw that the children needed shoes, came back and started a business, and every time he sold a pair of shoes, he sent some to South America. So we have these rays of hope, and we have to work with that and continue to think positive, like I just said.
HPB's recommendation is to treat each child as a soul, that each soul, when they come into reincarnation, they bring their own gift with them, that each child has a gift. And to develop that gift should be the responsibility of not just the school system, but the parents as well. That you need to guide the child with seed ideas when they're very young, so that actually the seed ideas will grow up with them and they will never ever lose it. But if you don't put those seed ideas into the children when they're very, very young and they don't have it, that's when they lose their balance, because they don't know which way to go. For instance, we're souls. We occupy a body in incarnation. We can't live without one on earth. Now, how many kids in the school system are aware that they have come into reincarnation, that this is not their first life on earth. We have been in evolution for millions of years. How many times does a child reincarnate in that period? These are seed ideas that we can simply interject into the child. There was a show this student was watching, and the speaker asked one of the kids who was like 3-4 years old, "Where do you think you were before you came into incarnation?" And the kid thought for a very long time and couldn't figure it out. And she turned and said to her mother, "Mom, where was I?" So if we interject those ideas into them, they will remember it. Unity is another one. Our system is very competitive, but the new generation, this is our son's generation, he used to say, this age cannot be solved, in other words, our problems cannot be solved individually. We have to put our minds together, our energies together. He used to say, our problems are so large that one person cannot address them. For instance, the warming of the climate. And he used to say, we need to put our heads together. So in school, they had projects where 6 students used to get together to work on it. That's cooperative way of looking for solutions. And I think this age needs that more than the competitive. But our societies are still very, very competitive.
We
very
didn't get much
materialistic
cooperative.
and very
In
cooperative.
graduate school, we got into the cooperative teamwork some.
Correct.
But I don't remember much before that.
Yeah, so there's that part of the effort now is going towards cooperative effort, because it has become a necessity for societal norm, because we cannot solve our problems one person at a time. They're too large. So if we gather all of the intellectual capacity with their intuitive powers to solve a problem, I think it can be done that way. In Poland, that is in the school system. They have put theosophical ideas into their school teaching, and I think we need to do the same thing here. You don't underestimate the positive thinking of all the people who are for the benefit of humanity. They might not be all sitting in this room, but they are spread all over the world.
Absolutely.
And that thinking together has tremendous power, because it is recorded on the astral light, and then it reacts on those who have similar ideology. So don't underestimate it. There are a lot of people who are considering humanity's condition as undesirable, and they want to move it towards solving the people's problems. Starvation is one of them, homelessness is another one. So there are all those people, philanthropists and individuals working together to alleviate those problems. HPB wrote in 1887 saying that the old forms of the religion, because it is shattered, a lot of people, especially the young generation, do not go for that kind of ideology. Dogmatic ideology does not suit them, because they are continuously searching for the truth. This is the younger generation. They don't accept anything at face value. They're searching for it. The older generation, who are stuck in their mode, will eventually disappear from the surface of the earth, because since she brought it out, how many years? It's been at least 130, 140 years. And during that time, she said, the old forms will still linger amongst us for a long time to come, but the new modality is with us. And that's what we have to concentrate on, not the old stuff that is dying out. That's always going to be there.
We need to get rid of this typical Westerner thinking of one life too, because this, being here 70, 80 years or however long we're here, really doesn't give us a chance to develop as we need to. And we have to talk about reincarnation. And you basically want to say we have to unlearn as much as we learn. Yeah.
No, we should.
Thank you for joining us today. We're going to call it call time on us now, and we will continue on with our discussion as long as we want to. And we also have an afternoon meeting too. So, thank you.
Thank you.